One, two, three, four. Brighten the corner where you are. Brighten the corner where you are. Someone far from the harbor you may guide across the bar. Brighten the corner where you are. That's our little theme song we have here at the Postmark Jamboree, Brighten the Corner. We want to brighten the corner where we are so that we can brighten the corner where you are. Tonight we're exploring some connections for our February 2021 Postmark Jamboree, so stay tuned. Good evening and welcome to the February 2021 Postmark Jamboree. Tonight in our February Jamboree, we are exploring connections. We'll be talking to some musicians and singers tonight's program, and we'll be exploring connections that they have with other singers and musicians and exploring connections that they have with their music. Tonight's Postmark Jamboree is brought to you in part by WLAF AM and FM radio and Comcast Channel 12 in La Follette, Tennessee, by Postmark La Follette, by United Cumberland Bank, Community Trust Bank, Terry's Pharmacy, Indian River Marina, and Tennessee State Senator Ken Yeager. We appreciate all of your sponsorship down through the 2.5 years that we have been having the Postmark Jamboree. first performer who's going to be with us tonight, his name is Ian Kirkpatrick. I made a new connection with Ian through some friends of mine that passed his name along to me, that knew about him and what he did. And what he does is ballad singing. Ballad singing has been used over the years as a means of passing stories and maintaining connections with the past and with these stories among families, among churches, among travelers that would meet. And he's a young man that has picked up a traditional art of ballad singing. So let's talk a little bit with Ian. So here we are at the Postmark Jamboree, and we're glad to have Ian Kirkpatrick with us tonight. And he's one of our neighbors, I guess you could say, from up in Claiborne County. The Jamboree is hosted in La Follette, Tennessee at the old post office in Campbell County, which is next door to Claiborne County. Came to know Ian a little bit and invited him to be on our program, and we're going to talk to him in a little bit. But Ian does something which has been around our area for a long time. It's kind of, I guess, faded into the past like some of our other folk art type methods and techniques, but he's bringing it back and keeping it going. And Ian, I guess I could describe you as a ballad singer.
Yes, a ballad singer, clogger, and folklorist all in one.
Oh, yeah. I had forgotten that you kind of got started in clogging.
Yeah, so I had started actually in high school. I started clogging. I was a line dancer from middle school up to high school before that, and then I actually got to go to college on a clogging scholarship and travel the world doing performative folk dance. And that's how I started ballad singing too, as I got into those circles and met some people who really influenced how my path was going to go. So
we'll definitely talk some more about that clogging in your travels here. Postmark Jamboree is primarily a music oriented program right now, and so we're going to ask Ian to give us a little example to sing us a ballad.
Okay, this is called Three Little Babes, or I believe the English title is Wife of Usher's Well, or there are a couple of other, Lady Gay is one of the titles it goes by, depending on where you're from. And I'm going to try and do it if I can remember all the words. There was a knight and a lady, and children she had three. She sent them away to the north country to learn their grammar. They hadn't been gone but a very short time, scarcely 6 months and a day, when the Lord called over this whole wide world and took those babes away. If there's a king in heaven, she cried, and where's the golden crown? I pray he sends my three little babes. I pray he sends them down. It was about old Christmas time. The night been dark and clear. She thought she saw her three little babes come running down the hill. She spread a table in the upmost room. On it she placed bread and wine. Come eat, come drink, my three little babes. Come eat and drink of mine. We don't want none of your bread, mother, nor do we want your wine, for yonder stands our Savior dear. With him we soon must join. She made a bed in the backmost room. On it she placed clean sheets, and over them a gold covered lamp, so they might get some sleep. Take it off, cried the eldest one. Take it off, cried he. The tears our poor mother sheds for us, they wet our winding sheet. Cold clay at my head, mother. Green grass grows o'er our feet. Oh, yonder stands our Savior dear. There's a better home for thee.
Wow. That's giving me chill bumps.
You know, that's what they say makes a good song. It gives me chill bumps, and that's what I know I'm doing good.
I remember, I guess, gospel ballad singers in our churches down through the years, mainly the older people. You know, they would stand up and sing a cappella songs, church songs in a similar fashion, sort of with their own timing and their own inflection, and it just give you chill bumps all over, you know. That's just what you did too. Good job. So what makes what makes a song a ballad, do you think?
Well, a ballad, the easiest definition is it's a song that tells a story. Some of the older folks used to love songs like Jolene and anything that George the Possum did, because those were songs that told stories, and that's what a ballad was. It reminded them of the old music, and a lot of them were they were written in as far back as the 1200s in England, Scotland, and Ireland. And when the settlers came over, especially to this region, because Cumberland Gap was the gateway to the West, they brought those songs with them, and it was a lot like bringing their flowers with them. It was just a part of their history, a part of their culture. It was an oral recitation, a historical recitation. A lot of these songs are written about real stories that actually happened. There's a section of ballads called murder ballads, and an even smaller a subsection under that subsection called hangman tales, and they were songs that were written about actual murders that happened in the town. So it was almost like reading a newspaper.
Yeah.
Um,
So
and
especially in
back
the earlier days of that, there weren't any newspapers, and that was how I guess history and information and stories were passed along. And to it's probably a lot easier to tell a story in song format and keep it consistent versus just orally telling somebody the story.
yes.
Plus, I guess how how did you kind of get involved in ballad singing?
Yeah, so like you were saying, I come from a family of mostly gospel singers, actually, and you can go back um, multiple generations, and it actually, not only with the oral history of the family, but also there are documents that prove that members of my family were singers. And But every now and then, my grandmother would sing Barbary Allen while she was making coffee, and I like to think that that is sort of a memory
Oh yeah.
uh, that some of us, at least the older millennials, probably remember, because those were songs that were taught in school in the 40s and 50s as a way of keeping them alive. And so, just growing up, I thought Ralph Stanley wrote Pretty Polly when I was younger. That was one of my favorite songs, and I loved it. And it wasn't until I got to college that I realized that that song was written in the 1800s, and that it comes from an even older version. You have Knoxville Girl. It used to be Wexford Girl or Oxford Girl, the Gosport Tragedy. And as it changed communities, it took on new shapes. No two singers sang it the same. So I learned all this in college. I was actually looking for a song my great grandfather used to sing. And we've since determined that he wrote it, or he learned it from someone who wrote it at that time, because it's written in a very 30s, 40s era style of writing. But through that, I met Sheila K. Adams, who is a very dear friend of mine. My freshman year, we were backstage, and she just happened to be on stage right after me. And I went up and introduced myself and said, "Hey, I'm looking for this song." And so we got to talking. And that was when I really realized that what my family was doing was called ballad singing, um, and that it had been studied. Um, uh, for generations at this point, and it was kept alive by people like my family. So I really started to engage in that. You're talking your shows about connections, find those connections, learn those songs, and keep that culture alive. And so that's how I got started in it.
Now you mentioned Sheila K. Adams. She is the mentor that you're working with in a South Arts
Yes.
cross-border
Mentor apprenticeship program.
program. So she's in North Carolina and you're here, and part of that program is that you, I guess, meet with her and get with her either virtually or in person and learn. I guess she's learning from you too, I'm sure, but I'm sure it's a learning in both directions type thing going on. But she's
Well,
probably teaching you some songs that you've never heard of and maybe some techniques for singing those songs. Are all the ballad singing technique, I guess it's variable from location to location and person to person. Is that what you?
yeah. So, like I said, because you have to remember, coming from Claiborne County to like Knoxville, for example, that's an hour drive for us now. Back then, it took 3 days. You took one day to get to the outskirts of Knoxville. You took the second day to get into town, get your stuff, and come back to the outskirts where you were posted. And then you took the third day to come back. So it took a lot of time to get back and forth from places. And over time, where it's an oral tradition, it wasn't written down. Even my great grandfather signed his name. The other great grandfather, not the one I was talking about earlier, he signed his name with an X because he couldn't write. And so over time, they evolved in these pockets in the mountains. And no two singers would sing the same song the same way, even in the same family. If you go through Sheila's family, for example, every single member of her family had a different version of Black is the Color. And they all recognized it as the same song, but they all sang it a different way because they learned it from different people in their community. And they chose which one that they wanted to preserve. And so not only do you have this oral history, like if you don't sing it, you can't teach it to somebody else, and it gets lost in the oral tradition. But also, if a singer chooses that they don't like that song and they don't want to learn that song, that's another way it can get lost. And it just takes one generation to lose an entire repertoire.
Mm-hmm. Now, you said that you got involved in studying this, I guess, in more detail in college. Did you actually go to college to study this type of a folk art, or was that sort of a sideline you got into once you got there?
Well, so I chose my college. So I wanted to go to college. I've always grown up wanting to go to college. But I chose the college I went to join the clogging team that I joined, because they were the only collegiate clogging team in the country. And it was a great way to continue dancing and continue my education. And both of those were really important to me. And so my degree was actually in political science and international studies. I wanted to be a lawyer. And that fell through, and I became the family folklorist. Sorry, Mom, but through that, I found the ballad singing. And then after college, so I went to Mars Hill University for my undergraduate. After that, I went to Appalachian State and got my master's in Appalachian Studies. So eventually it became more of a career path for me. But it was not what I went to originally.
Yeah. So how young were you when you started clogging?
I was probably 16 or 17 when I started clogging. I was 11 when I started line dancing.
Yeah.
So I've been dancing. And even prior to that, I was actually in theater in like elementary, middle school. So I've been on stage my whole life in some form or another.
Yeah. Now, the ballad singing, I'm sure it's in different ways, different times, but most people think of it as one person standing up on the stage, like you mentioned, being on stage by themselves, no music. That's about as exposed on stage as you can be.
Yeah.
Of course, now it's an entertainment form also, besides just passing those stories along. But back in the day, when it was mainly to pass stories and information along, you can visualize people sitting around or standing in their living rooms. And I'm sure the kids just love to sit there and feel the chill bumps when they heard Grandpa sing this old song to them and tell them a story.
A lot of times it was a lullaby too. So you'll see ballad singers who have grown up in this tradition. We do something called, depending on who you ask, a ballad swap, ballad circle, a round robin, where all of us get together and trade songs that we've learned from different groups. And a lot of the times you'll see a ballad singer on the sidelines whose turn it's not to sing, because this is a solo a cappella performance. You stand up, you do your piece, and then you sit down and let other people sing for a bit. And a lot of times those singers will be sitting there going, because they're so used to listening to it as a way to go to sleep from their childhood that it puts them to sleep almost instantly when they're sitting there listening to it. So it's so connected to their culture and their heritage and their life cycle that it's just a natural sleep remedy.
You mentioned the ballad rounds or ballad circles or whatever. That's a connection between different singers that do you have those regularly? Do you schedule those with different people online? How are those working right now?
Yeah. So typically what we had wanted to do in Cumberland Gap was do it yearly in the spring. And that was something that I started in 2018. And unfortunately, it hasn't happened again because of various numbers, one of which being COVID, right? So how do you engage in an in-person event when you're not supposed to be, going outside of your bubble too much? So what we've done, and when it was going on way back when, they tried to do it. It wasn't something that was scheduled. Nowadays we're doing it monthly online, and members come from Western North Carolina, East Tennessee, and even some from further outside of Appalachia. There's a boy from Connecticut that comes up every now and then and sings with us too. I lost my train of thought.
Is there anybody that's recording these to where they might be available to people that just wanted to watch individual performances or parts of the process?
Yeah, so we have been doing archival copies because this is sort of a closed group, but anyone is allowed to sing. And if you have a song, just get in touch with me. Tony has my contact information, and we can get you in as part of that group, but it is sort of closed off to the public right now. I remember what I was going to say. Back then, there wasn't a schedule. So you would just hear of a swap and decide to go to it. But now we're trying to keep it monthly. So we do have those recorded, and mostly for our own purposes to learn by. Eventually, I imagine someone will donate them to a university archives, because that's what's happened to a lot of those ballot swaps. But what it is, so we do have shows that are open to the public. There are some in North Carolina, there are some in Kentucky. We're working on getting some more in Tennessee. That yearly one I'm hoping to bring back next year, and that will be open to the public. But for now, we're learning from each other is the goal of this. And it's not something that can be done. It's not the same to me as an audience member to log on and listen to it. If I was an audience member, which I have been, I've been an audience member, I've been backstage, I've been on stage, I've done the whole deal. I think to really get the experience, the chill bumps, as you said, you have to be in person. So right now, a lot of us have kind of shut down because of COVID.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to keep you on here forever. I know you've got another meeting going on shortly. We hope maybe in the near future, when we get back to having live audience shows in the post office, to get you to come up sometime and perform for us. Give us all an few bumps.
Yeah. So like I said, you have my contact information. Just hit me up and I'll do my best. I've enjoyed this.
It's been good. Appreciate the information, and we maybe just have to get you back on our show one way or the other through the virtual means or live on stage. And I'm assuming you still clog also, so maybe we can get that.
I'm semi-retired clogger, but I might be able to break it out one last time for you.
Just a casual thought entered my head. Are there any combinations of songs that involve movement, like clogging, or where ballad and movement would be mixed together in some sort of historical context or in the past? Would they act out some of these?
I can't think of ballads. I know some people have started drawing. Elizabeth LaPrelle and Anna, they have a thing called a cranky, where they have paintings of the plays and they move the painting as it goes along and tells the story. a couple of people, I believe it was Dillard Chandler, would sing with his arms wide out like this all the time, and he would move them just randomly as he sang, which was also very prominent in shape note singing.
Yeah.
But as far as music and dance, the one thing that comes to mind that combines those two off the top of my head is actually juba, which is traditionally an African American style of. There's a little song and a pat rhythm that goes with it that you do. And Dillard Chandler actually learned that and was able to perform it from an African American gentleman in his community. And that was a really cool thing to get to see if you were able to.
Yeah. Let me ask you one more question just to see if you ever came across this guy. There was a guy that I saw, oh gosh, maybe 20 years ago. He was still around, George Wilson. Did you ever come across him in any churches around?
I've heard that name, but I don't know where from.
He was an a cappella singer, and he would go to singings and revivals and church services, and anytime anybody asked him to sing, he would stand up and he would start singing as soon as he stood up and start walking up toward the front singing. That was real powerful.
I'll have to look more into him because I've heard his name, but I've not.
I hope that I find some video of him someday, but it may not exist. Just to show people kind of what the historical type singing used to be in some of the churches around. Well, it's been good to talk to you. I'm going to let you go, and we'll be back in touch for some more Postmark Jamboree things.
Well, have a good evening.
Too. Thank you. This is the February Postmark Jamboree, and we are exploring connections this month. We have the Roberts sisters joining us via Zoom, and they're going to do a song for us, and we're going to do a chat with them, and then we're going to invite somebody that they have a musical connection to and pull them into this conversation for a few minutes to talk to them. So hello, Roberts sisters.
Hello.
Just tell our audience who you are. Which one's which?
Hi, I'm Ayana Roberts.
I'm Anaya Roberts.
So you all have been on the Postmark Jamboree many times. You've actually, I think, been on some videos too remotely like this for us and sent us some videos in while we've been filming without an audience. So we appreciate that. Appreciate your support and help throughout the couple of years, I guess, we've been doing this now. This would be a good time for us to take a brief look at some of the Roberts sisters' previous appearances on the Postmark Jamboree.
The major lift with every breath, I'm singing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Set free, my God, my Savior has ransomed me, and like a flood, His mercy reigns. I would make you stay, so I don't have to say you were the one that got away, the one that the heavens are roaring, the praise of your glory, for you are raised to life again. Breathe, oh breathe, just breathe. Oh, how to say how I feel. Those three words. Jesus is calling, calling for you and for me. See on the portals, He's waiting and watching, watching for you. And I don't know why it's called the good Lord.
going to ask you one quick question. What's your favorite thing about performing, Ayana?
I like to just make other people happy with singing and just making them smile when I'm on stage.
What about you, Anaya? What's your favorite thing about performing?
Probably meeting other people that you wouldn't get to meet if you weren't doing it.
Well, that's a good answer for that, because that leads us into our connections that we're going to talk a little bit about tonight. Y'all have a song for us, I believe, tonight to get us started, don't you?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
All right, let's hit it.
The song we're going to be singing is called I'll Fight For You. It's by the Bird Songs. We were lucky enough to get some music from them to sing it for you guys tonight. So we were really appreciative for that. It's been 3 whole days since I've seen the rays of the sun that I know is still there. It's been 4 long nights that we've held on tight to the hope that one of us still cares. I will get down on my knees, bow my head, roll up my sleeves, and I'll fight for you. I'll fight for you. I will stand against the enemy, 'cause that's what love will do. Through the sun and rain, through all joy and pain, I will risk everything, and I will fight for you. Oh, I will fight for you. Oh, I will fight for you. It began with pride, then a painful slide. Heaven, I repeat, we haven't been down. But you stood by me, held my hand tightly, and through your tears you whispered, no man's left behind. So I'll fight for you. I'll fight for you. I will stand against the enemy, 'cause that's what love will do. Through the sun and rain, through all joy and pain, I will risk everything, and I will fight for you. Oh, I will fight for you. When it seems like all hope is lost, every doubt and worry shatters with the word of grace. You said I'll fight for you. I'll fight for you. I came to give my life away. That's what love can do. And Father's only Son said the work is done. I gave up everything, and I did it all for you. So I'll fight for you. I will fight for you. I will stand against the enemy, 'cause that's what love is. Through the sun and rain, through all joy and pain, I will risk everything. I will fight for you. Oh, I will fight for you.
Good job. Great song. You say that was written by the Bird Songs, correct?
Yes.
Before we pull them on, is it easy to perform without an audience?
Kind of.
Yeah,
The camera is a little bit intimidating, but
Camera doesn't miss anything, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes you look out in the audience and somebody's looking off to the side, or they're talking, or they're looking at their phone. So you know you're not paying any attention anyway, but the camera pays attention. So I'm gonna pull Ben back in here, and we'll talk about some performance musical connections here.
Hello, how are you all?
We've got you back.
That was absolutely beautiful.
We need to get you to start up your video. There you go.
There we are. That was wonderful. You couldn't see me, but I was cheering so loud. You did have an audience. It was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
I'll just refer to the sisters and Ben then, instead of.
That'll work.
So, sisters, y'all got to pick on Ben tonight for your musical connection. Let's check out some of the Birdsong's previous appearances on the Postmark Jamboree, and we'll feature Ben in some of these highlights. We all, as performers, have connections with one another, with people that we come across when we're performing, with people that we've learned from. Kind of give us a little background of your history with Mr. Ben Birdsong.
Well, I think the first time that we talked to Ben was when it was one of the first jamborees, and it was one of the Christmas ones. And we had picked out the same songs as the bird songs, and it kind of freaked us out a little bit because we were like, oh no, we don't want to take your songs, because we felt bad. We were like, oh no, what are we going to do? And so that was our first encounter with them, but they were so sweet about it. And
yeah, they were very supportive about it, and they even offered to let us sing the songs together, so we didn't feel left out or anything.
So Ben, give us a little bit of background of the bird songs. We've had the bird songs on our jamboree a few times.
We love coming onto the jamboree.
The people that are familiar with our show, a lot of the local people anyway, are probably familiar with the bird songs, but we've probably got a lot of viewers that don't really know what you all do and who you all are. So give us a little bit of background on the bird songs.
The bird songs started in about 1995 in Seattle, Washington, just south of Seattle, a little town called Auburn. or Pacific Washington. And that's where we started playing bluegrass music. We started singing songs like Rocky Top and just jamming. A lot of people don't think of the Northwest as an area for bluegrass, but they've got some great pickers out there, some great festivals. And so we grew up from 1994, 1995 on playing bluegrass music. And it wasn't long before festivals from all over the country were having us come and play. We were playing in Mississippi, Kentucky, Alabama, Tennessee. And I think that's when we started being called to move out from Seattle to Tennessee. And it's just, you guys have accepted us. We don't have the Southern twang and the accent quite yet. We're still working on it. But just the people we've met, the relationships, you couldn't imagine not knowing these people. Couldn't imagine calling East Tennessee home. And so we play a lot of different styles of music and really just trying to use any gift we have to encourage other people. And so it has a lot of different flavors. It's kind of like Baskin Robbins. We do like 31 different styles of music, but it's all kind of a part of our upbringing. A lot of our upbringing is bluegrass music. So I love being able to kind of rip that out and when we're at the Jamboree, and it's a lot of fun.
So you look like you're in some sort of a facility right now. So where are you right now?
We are in Gowan, Michigan, north of Greenville, which is not too far from Grand Rapids. And it is dropping to -4 degrees. And that is not including the wind chill. And the wind is blowing probably 13 miles an hour. And we may or may not survive the night. So our host home here is, it's very, very warm. And so we're looking forward to doing that right now. You can see behind me, we're setting up some lights, and it's been a long time because of the quarantine, because of COVID. I haven't really got a chance to do an indoor full lighting and everything. So it's pretty exciting, but we're trying to make sure it all works.
Yeah. So. Is this at a church or is this at a camp or what is it?
They've opened up to allow winter camps, which, everyone has to kind of wear masks and wash their hands and that kind of deal. And it's a lot lower capacity than normal, but I'm just happy we get to do anything. So it'll be neat. They'll be coming in here in a couple days.
So Robert's sister's back. So you met the Birdsongs at our Jamboree. How did you get to work specifically with Ben?
Well, like she said, we got invited to sing with them, and it was like at the ending, kind of, they had the end part of the show. And so we walked over to them and we were like, we are so sorry. We didn't know that you guys would be doing these songs. We never picked these. And so we just started talking and stuff. And when we finally got on stage with them, it was like, I was so nervous to be singing with such amazing people. And so was she. It was just like insane. But we were very grateful for that opportunity, and that's just kind of how our relationship started building up. And now we consider them family.
Yeah. Aw, we considered you all family as well. They reminded me so much of our family back in 1994, 1995, and just that nervous, trying to be, you kind of like the low person on the totem pole. And to me, they were super special, very, very kind, and very just thoughtful. And so my recollection was like, hey, what can we do to support them and make them feel accepted and cared for and appreciated? Because they are appreciated. Our whole community just loves them so much. And it's an honor for me to get to share, over the past 20-something years, a lot of the dumb things that I've had to learn the hard way. I don't want them to have to do that. So I just it's more just kind of a lesson in hard knocks, the Cliff Notes version. So it's been neat because I know what it's like to be their age and trying to sing and perform and to love people with your gifts. So it's been really neat. Honestly, I haven't told them this, but I learned more from hanging out with them and just us working together through these different things. So when they think I'm just sharing knowledge with them, I'm currently learning so that I'm being improved just by being around them. That's the kind of people they are.
They just sang a song that the Birdsongs had written that I know you have a fairly new album. Now, when does that the latest album released? About a year and a half ago?
Yeah, about a year and a half ago, and about the time we had gotten together the tour to go out and tour it to the West Coast.
Yeah.
That's when stuff started shutting down.
Yeah.
And so we've kind of just held on to it. Radio's been really, really good to us. In the Christian rock genre, we had a top 20 song of 2020. Which is like up there with bands like Switchfoot and Reliant K. And so that's the kind of stuff we send out to radio. We'll have to take some of the tracks off the album, send it to Bluegrass Radio. There's some acoustic tracks off the album as well. But so just couldn't go and play live as much, but really got to share a lot of the songs through other means. So that was really neat.
What has encouraged you to write your own material?
Oh, just seeing people hurting and on just kind of resonating with what that feels like myself. I just, sometimes if you've been through something similar to what somebody else has gone through, you have kind of the best, kind of the words you use, the certain, maybe saying this instead of that can really help people feel like they're not, completely by themselves and that somebody else has gone through it and has come out okay. And so trying to write those lyrics down, that song that they just sung there, I'm sure there have been times where people are just feel really hopeless and really sad, really frustrated. And it's just that moment in which they could choose to do something, that maybe they would regret later. But maybe if they hear a song that says, hey, I've been there and it's going to be okay, it's just a small thing. But for me, if it even helps one person, it's worth it.
Robert Sisters, I know that you pay attention to lyrics because I've paid attention to some of the songs that you all do. And I know that you do some of those because of the lyrics.
Yes.
What stands out to each of you about a song's lyrics? Is it the overall message? Is it just the way that the person that writes it rhymes the words? Is it just that it sounds cool? What sticks out in your mind to make you pick to do the song?
It's the fact that the person writing the song has been through that, and that they can put all their passion and emotion in a song is really cool to me.
For me, it's how much I can relate to certain parts of the lyrics, or just thinking about how they just had that all bottled up, but they could put it into a song and help other people.
I know songwriting is something that you kind of, I guess, learn as you go along. I know, Ben, you've been in music, you mentioned 1995, that's like 25 years ago. You don't look that old. So how young were you when you first started writing songs?
I think I was 4 years old, and I had a snare drum from a yard sale, and I wrote rap music.
Yeah.
So yeah, it started then. Dad wanted me to do the normal version of I'm a Little Teapot, and me and Matthew, my older brother, remixed it. And it was something fun to create music, to create how I felt at the time. And I never thought of myself as really a songwriter, except for I'd hear other people write stuff that really resonated to me, and then I was like, well, I kind of want to pay it forward. Somebody else may be helped by what I write. It's a very humbling and terrifying thing to do, but just we've gotten feedback from all over the world, through internet and whatnot. And there's a band in Brazil that, they say that the bird songs is their main influence for what they do. And I'm like, what? Like, they don't even speak the same language. And yet, it's just crazy. And it's just, I think like the Robert Sisters says, it's just when you resonate with something, you feel a connection. You just don't feel so alone, even if it's just for that moment. And it just helps you to make better decisions, helps you not fall into despair. And that's a wonderful thing to do. Music is such a beautiful thing.
So Robert Sisters, we appreciate y'all being with us tonight. And Ben, we thank you for being with us tonight here on the Jamboree this month. And you're going to send us a song.
We'll do.
We'll put that into our video. And,
Thank you for having us.
Glad that you all pitched in and helped us out this month.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Benjamin.
Y'all stay warm. Y'all stay
will.
warm.
You too.
And y'all sound so good. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Well, I'll let you all go, and I appreciate it. Thank you much.
God
Thank
bless
you.
y'all. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
The song is called Don't Give Up on Me. I want you to know that I'm sorry. It must be hard to watch me make so many mistakes. I am trying my hardest. It's like my harness just feels like I'm running in place. And it hurts to see that look on your face. But don't give up on me. None of us are who we wanna be. We all make mistakes, we all need His grace. So don't give up on me. And I need you to know that I'm trying, but it must look like the opposite from your point of view. Oh, but you don't see this battle I'm fighting. It's like this growing in grace thing came easy for you, and I don't know what else I can do. But don't give up on me. None of us are who we wanna be. We all make mistakes, we all need His grace. So don't give up on me. And I don't mean to come off discouraged. We all have our own demons to fight. All I'm saying is maybe you could focus on the good things you see in my life. Then don't give up on me. None of us are who we wanna be. We all make mistakes, we all need His grace. So don't give up on me. No, don't give up on me. Yeah, 'cause none of us are who we wanna be. Oh, we all make mistakes, we all need His grace. So don't give up on me. Yeah.
Be sure to follow the Postmark Jamboree on Facebook. Hit that big like button. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can be updated when we post new material. Be sure to check out our previous videos on YouTube and also on the WLAF YouTube channel. Be sure to visit the postmarklafollette.org website, where you can keep up with all the events and activities Postmark La Follette is involved in now and coming up in the future. That's postmarklafollette.org. Tonight, we are continuing to explore our musical connections. We have Joseph Hensley and Gene Stevens. Both are members of the Postmark Jamboree House Band Special Delivery, and both are also members of a similar band that plays at a restaurant in La Follette, Tennessee, Katie's Restaurant, on Friday evenings from 6 to 8. So if you're hungry and want to hear some good music on Friday evenings from 6 to 8 in La Follette, Katie's Restaurant, you'll find a band there named Second Chance, featuring Joseph Hensley and Gene Stevens and some other fine pickers. So go out and give them a listen and find you something good to eat while you're there. So here we are again at the February Postmark Jamboree. We're exploring musical connections this month, the month of February, Valentine's month. We've had in the past some connections and some couples themes during February. And right now we've got Joseph Hensley and Gene Stevens on here. And we're going to talk to them and explore some musical connections between all three of us. Joseph's been on our Jamboree show many times, and he usually performs frequently with our house band, which Gene is also a big part of. If you've watched any of our videos on YouTube, I'm sure you've seen and heard both of these people. And Joseph, how you doing today?
All right. How are you?
Good. You got a song for us to start things off and get people in the mood for some music?
I was gonna try to do a cross picking arrangement of Wildwood Flower.
Okay, go ahead and do it. That's pretty.
Sort of on the Rice version a little bit.
So we are exploring connections here on our Postmark Jamboree this month. And I approached some different performers and let them kind of pick somebody they wanted to drag along in this Zoom experience with us. So Joseph, you pulled in Gene to join us tonight. How did you first come across Gene Stevens?
Well, I first met him at he played house band at Katie's Restaurant about 3 years ago. I met him there.
At Katie's Restaurant. We're going to talk a little bit about Katie's Restaurant too, because we want to give them a great big plug. I wish I had a big round piece of wood that had plug on it. I'd hold it up and give it to them. They or she at Katie's Restaurant has been, I guess, a good firm foothold in the musical world for local musicians and local people that like to listen to good music in La Follette. She's had live music there for several years now. Friday nights typically, but sometimes other times too. So you play there some with Gene, typically, I guess, about every Friday night. What time do you all start playing, and what time do you kind of finish up there at Katie's?
They usually start around 6, and they usually play around till 8, I think. Right.
Around 6 to 8.
Yeah, but sometimes it goes longer and that varies.
Now, they not only have good music, they also have some good food. I've eaten there several times, and the food may be better than music, I'm sorry to say, but both of them are really good. So, Gene, you've played there at Katie's for quite a while, but that's not the only place that you've played over the years.
Right.
You just tell us a little bit about your background in music. How'd you get started?
Well, my background is mainly gospel, and went to church all of my life and got to meet a lot of different people playing music, different instruments and banjos and guitars and electric guitars and everything else. And to be honest with you, several of the members of the house band there at Katie's are lifelong friends of mine that we have played together ever since we were teenagers. And as everybody grew up and kind of we all played in a group kind of together. And then everybody got families and children and had to go our own separate ways and raise our children. And then about 6 or 7 years ago, Katie started having this music down there every Friday night, and one of us would show up and we would call the other ones, and somebody else would show up and somebody else would show up, and she expanded the building size to accommodate several different people. And So it all worked out. So a lot of the friends that I played music with as a teenager, we had a second chance to get back together and play music again. So that's kind of how it worked out for me.
I know Second Chance is kind of a band name that y'all kind of use.
Yep.
Use there. We call you all Special Delivery in our Postmark Jamboree.
Right.
Just because it's kind of post office related. And we really appreciate you all helping us out and becoming our band.
We enjoy doing that.
It adds a big part to our show to be able to have y'all back up people at times and then also do your own thing at certain times during the show. So we're really looking forward to getting back and doing some live music there.
Yes, that's for sure.
So speaking of live music, Gene, you got a little song for us?
Probably the oldest gospel song that everybody knows well is Amazing Grace.
That's good. So Joseph, did you pick up all those licks there? You can see them really good on the screen. We expect you to do that next time we get together.
I'll try.
I know musical connections we have a lot of times are between people that learn from one another. So Joseph, what's something that you've learned from Gene that you could think of right off the bat, besides all those cool chords he uses?
Well, when you're playing with someone, you pick up all these different little things that they do, and I think really getting able to play with musicians that are as good as he is, it really helps you become a better musician yourself. And I can't really think of anything right off specifically, but he's helped me improve an awful lot, though, that's for sure.
A lot of times we'll pick up things without really realizing it.
Yeah.
You'll remember something that somebody did and you'll accidentally do it and you'll think, oh, I know where I got that. Where did that come from? I noticed when you were playing Wildwood Flower, you were playing with the pick. Did you do any finger picking at all in that?
Not on that tune, but I do sometimes.
I know Gene uses, I guess he kind of calls it hybrid picking.
Yeah.
Kind of a combination of flat pick and finger picking. And you've got some interesting signatures on your guitar there, Gene. Tell us about those.
A couple of them are pretty famous guitar players. Tommy Emmanuel and John Knowles, who were both CGP, which means certified guitar players, which the great Chet Atkins named 5 people in the world as certified guitar players. Of course, him, Jerry Reed, Tommy Emmanuel, John Knowles, and Steve Warner. So I've got 2 of their signatures, wanting to get the 3rd one, and 2 of them are gone. So it's a huge thing that they got from Chet Atkins being a certified guitar player. And the 2 signatures I've got is John Knowles and Tommy Emmanuel. Got to go to a workshop and got to spend a couple of hours with both of those gentlemen, and it was just really eye-opening, amazing. It really was. I mean, they're not 10 foot tall, and no, they don't have 12 fingers on one hand, but it does sound like they do have that many.
Yeah. But
they're really amazing people, and I guess the difference between the level they're at and the level where other people are at is dedication. And they dedicate hours and hours and untold hours to be able to do to the level of where they're at. It makes a huge difference. But I've been just really thrilled to meet up with Joseph, and I've seen such an improvement over him. And sometimes he just really amazes me at some of the little things that he's picking up on here lately. He already is a great guitar player, and he will be awesome, But,
yeah, he is. That's one thing that I've noticed people develop over time is you develop the ability to know what's going on without having to have somebody write it down on paper for you. You see it and you think, oh, that's what that is. I can do that. And then you remember that. You add it into your repertoire and then use it whenever you want to use it. And you get to that point and things kind of go quicker and you pick up things faster. I think Joseph's definitely reached that part.
And he's got a lot of experiences that by being able to get around good musicians and, be with them and watch and learn and ask the questions, it will help you immensely. I've been playing all my life, and it took me all my life to just get this far. But with the exposure to other musicians, and one of the greatest assets for any musician nowadays is YouTube. If you want to see what kind of a lick that any guitar player is doing in whatever song and the videos out there, you can zoom in on that and you can keep moving that video back and forth until you figure out what that lick is.
Yeah.
And that is a huge leap for all musicians.
Yeah. Because
the only way you could get that years ago was by hopefully going to a show and seeing somebody and asking them, how did you do this or how did you do that? They may tell you and they may not. But I think that's a huge thing now.
Yeah.
Is the internet.
There's a lot of tools based on that sort of technology that you have available now. Joseph typically uses an iPad with his lyrics and stuff on. Years ago you maybe had a piece of paper. You had to try to see it land on the floor, or
yes,
write it on your guitar side or whatever, just to keep your song straight.
Right, exactly.
I remember using something that I came across that I thought was really high tech at one point, was a looping cassette tape, which was basically built like an 8-track tape, just a continuous loop that would play over and over, and you could buy them 10 seconds, 30 seconds or whatever, and record a specific piece of the song and then play it over and over and over without having to push the rewind and stop button. That was high tech at one point.
Yeah. Wow.
And now you can just go video, and a lot of people are using video, to teach. You can get online classes, a lot of free classes, a lot of classes you can pay for.
Yes.
But it's hard to beat getting with another musician, and learning, looking them right in the eye and watching what they're doing and learning.
Exactly. And I do both. if I'm playing music with somebody and I see them doing a certain lick and I've not seen that before, you know, I want to make sure that I ask them, how did you do that? Or what kind of a chord did you make? Or is that, what kind of a progression did you put in there? You know, and I've had people ask me the same thing. You know, they say, well, I know you must know, you know, 100 different chords, and I probably do. But early on in my playing experience, that's one thing that I said, I'm going to strive towards knowing a lot of chords and how to, you know, step up to different chords and go back down and do things like that. So it just that was my way I wanted to play like that.
So Joseph, I know you've learned a lot from watching Gene pick and listening to him pick and playing with the band there at Katie's and also the band at Postmark Jamboree. What is the very earliest sort of playing an instrument thought or process did you have when you were a little bit younger that you can remember?
Well, the first string instrument I learned to play any on, I learned a few ukulele chords. I bought one when I was probably 12 or 13, I think. And then after that, my dad showed me a few chords on guitar. And then started sort of teaching myself there on out.
So Gene, when you started out, did you start out directly on guitar? Or I know you play piano also. What did you start out on?
I started out on guitar. My father plays guitar. And in fact, I've got his signature on here. And he showed me a lot of different chords, what he knew. And I would sit back in my bedroom and hammer on those chords or whatever. And my mother played piano and an organ. And so I had the best of both worlds. And she would show me some stuff on there. And then she could also make a lot of chords on the guitar. And she could show me some of your basic rhythms and got me started a lot on that. And so I'm just truly thankful that kind of come from a musical family. And some of it rubbed off on me.
The Postmark Jamboree were sponsored and were part of the Postmark La Follette organization. And one of the things that Postmark La Follette hopes to do this year possibly is to get some music lessons going there in the old post office for kids to do after school.
Yeah.
So we're looking into some possibilities of maybe starting out with a group class, ukulele or guitar or something. So we may be reaching out to both of you all to get you all involved in some of that and come and show us some things in the future.
All right.
I know both of y'all are also interested in teaching other people things. I've seen both of y'all show other singers, guitar pickers things, and that's a big way that we have connections from one another's, you know, reaching out and showing each other things and chords and licks and tunes and having to learn different tunes that you didn't know. And a lot of times you'll come across a tune that you like and you didn't even know existed just because somebody else had just happened to bring it up and sing it. That's pretty neat. Good way to learn.
Let's let Joseph play us another song.
Yeah,
He's heard all of my stuff.
let's let Joseph play us a song to exit out here on.
There you go.
Play us a little bit of Gold Rush. That's a good one.
All right. I'll try to remember it. I can't make any promises.
Hey, let me tell you this. You may have already learned this, but your audience never knows what you're going to try to play anyway.
That's true.
So if you mess up most of the time, they think, well, that sounded pretty cool. That was a little unusual, but that sounded pretty cool. Wonder where he came up with that. That sounded good to me. What about you, Gene?
Sounds great. Sounds great.
Well, I appreciate y'all joining me tonight, and we'll get this Jamboree video out in another few days, and appreciate y'all helping out and everything that you've done for the Postmark Jamboree and everything we're going to hopefully do in the future, and just can't wait to get back to that live audience. That's what I'm looking for.
Tony, thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you all. Be sure to check out our previous videos on YouTube and also on the WLAF YouTube channel. This month on the Postmark Jamboree, we're focusing on connections between musicians and between musicians and their instruments. As musicians, we all develop connections with our instruments. So right now I want to explore a particular instrument and then get in touch with its current owner. This particular magnificent little tenor banjo is a Baldwin. From what I can find out, probably produced in the late 1960s. The tenor banjo versus the traditional 5-string bluegrass banjo only has 4 strings. It was used in a wide variety of music down through the years, and we're going to talk a little bit with the current owner, and I'll give you a little demonstration of the sound before we get in touch with the owner. Some beautiful workmanship, gold-plated hardware, walnut resonator, laminated 3-ply neck, beautiful engraving on the tailpiece. So now let's get in touch with this banjo's owner. I am on here now with the banjo that I showed you a minute ago, with the banjo's owner, Miss Karen Kumrich, and she's going to tell us a little bit about the banjo and a little bit about the history behind that banjo. So Karen, who actually, I guess, purchased or owned that banjo?
Well, I actually inherited the banjo from my grandfather, but it wasn't his original banjo. It was something that belonged to his nephew, Charles. And somehow or another, in the late 60s, early 70s, they swapped banjos for some reason. And this gold banjo is just, it's beautiful, but I really wish that I had my grandfather's original, what I would call a traditional banjo. I didn't realize that it wasn't in with his remains until after there was very little left. So like I said, I just got this banjo case and a saxophone and kind of figured that it was his banjo. And I know that during the later years of his life, when we had gone to see him play at various places in and around the northern suburbs of the Chicago area, he would play the gold banjo, but I didn't think to ask him what happened to his own traditional banjo. And so I came to later on, after he passed away, I come to find out that this was Charles's banjo, and my grandfather had switched with Charles for some reason, and they never went back. So that's the sad part of the fact that it's, but he played any instrument that had a string on it, so he was very talented.
What was his name?
I'm sorry, my grandfather's name was Otto Amann, A-M-A-N-N, and he played, like I said, any instrument that had a string or a keyboard. And as we were kids, my grandparents would come out. We lived out in the we lived out in the boonies compared to living in a city. And so on Sundays, my grandparents would come out for dinner. And during the summer months, my grandfather would bring his entire band of friends. And it was really kind of almost like watching the circus unfold, you know, because kind of knew that the band was there to play for a Sunday afternoon. And they brought everything from any string instrument to a fiddle, you know, the bass fiddle. And it was just an amazing afternoon of fun. We recorded so many of the sessions. And unfortunately, I was the only one in my family that never picked up any musical capabilities. My mom and dad sang, danced beautifully. My dad played the piano by ear. My sister played the accordion. My brother sang in an.
So did your grandfather play in groups that performed around the area?
Yeah, he did. He had several different bands that he played with. Like I said, all on the north side of Chicago. They were, you know, from the city. And, you know, he played in lots of taverns and beer places where there was just fun music. For a living, my grandfather worked for Hammond Organ Company, which made Hammond organs. And he did some demonstration records for them. I do have one of his records that he had made. So, you know, he got to enjoy music his entire life, you know, which was, you know.
The banjo that you have now, it's a 4-string tenor banjo, typically played with a pick. And you mentioned that you had a picture that you're trying to find of him. Was it his nephew with him?
No, my dad.
Your dad at a Eddie Peabody convention of some sort.
So anyway, I just spent the last half hour looking for that photo of my grandfather and my dad at the Eddie Peabody convention that they, I guess it was a monthly meeting that they held at one time back in the Chicago area. And it really is just a great picture because it just shows the, you know, music as being kind of, everybody was in a suit and a tie. You know, and there, it seemed like there were just, it looked like the room was just packed with people and they're sitting at these long banquet tables. And like I said, everybody's in a suit and tie, all dressed up and everything. And I just think of music today as being so casual and comfortable. And even back in that time, when you look at the performances that you see, whether it was in a movie or whatever, everything is more formalized. Well, the thing that was so poignant about the photo is that my father and my grandfather are the very first two people sitting at the table. And then, like I said, there looked like to be at least 50 people. And there's my dad and my grandfather. And so to me, it was very poignant.
Now, Eddie Peabody, I didn't know anything about him either until you mentioned him. I researched him some. He was an amazing performer, and there's some nice videos on YouTube. I may put a little clip in here from one of his videos that shows him.
First of all, we start in with a waltz beat, something like this. Now, all we do to give an imitation of two banjos is to add the tremolo to the same right hand, something like this. Isn't that simple? That's all there's to it, folks. Anybody can do it.
He performed for almost 50 years. He passed away at the age of 68. While he was performing, actually.
Wow.
And, he was an amazing performer.
Yeah, I was amazed when I started looking him up. I was amazed at how many of Hollywood and how many famous musicians are connected to Eddie Peabody. And at one time it was more or less, I want not, the club was his club, but I think so many of the musicians, I don't know if you would, because as a musician, you would know this better. Did he have a way of playing that he taught differently? Because it seemed that, as in my research, that was some of the things that I noticed, that there were many very popular musicians subscribed to his methods or his particular, type of playing.
Yeah, he played very strongly, very fast. He had a lot of, I guess you could say, techniques that most banjo players would find very hard to do without a lot of practice. He was very fast, played a lot of notes and played all over the neck. So he was definitely, I guess, what you call a virtuoso.
Yeah, I did see ones where he actually played two banjos at one time.
Yeah.
And I just, growing up in a musical, well, growing up and having music at that early point in my life, I've always enjoyed it tremendously. And like I said, when my grandfather would bring his band to the house, he had a violin and a fiddle, and he referred to them as a violin and a fiddle, and he played them differently. Mm-hmm. And when he would play the violin, and don't forget, this was back in the 40s and 50s, so much of it was very, he would play classical on the violin and then pick up the banjo and just do ragtime. It was just such a diversity. And I always felt that he had so much talent. But again, being a kid, I didn't realize that that was not, in that era, somebody that, it just wasn't acceptable. You were not raising a family, being a tavern musician. It was, so he used it as his enjoyment. And I know part of it was probably the stringentness of my grandmother, who was a little more vocal as far as, you're not doing that, Otto. So.
I've seen also information where there were various cities that had banjo clubs. Was there any there that you know of in the Chicago area?
Yeah, there is a Chicago Banjo Club, and I know that recently they meet on a yearly basis, or they meet often, but they have a yearly convention in the Chicago area. But I really don't know if my grandfather belonged to any of that. I just remember, like I said, the Eddie Peabody is the strongest connection that I have to my grandfather subscribing to any kind of a method or learning. And everything he did by ear. Same thing with my dad playing the piano. I was always I'm impressed with anybody that can just pick that all out. Even music in school was not something that, trying to teach me how to read a line of music was just not in my wheelhouse. It made no sense to me then, and it still makes no sense to me now. I may know the terminologies, but so I'm always very impressed with somebody that can just, number one, read a note and play, or just play without reading a note.
Mm-hmm. It's a skill that you have to practice to learn, I guess.
Right, and they're again, but it's fascinating. I just think that that's why I'm so impressed with what you do at Jamboree, when we have these, all these talented people in our community, and find that, they're here and they're enjoying what they're doing, and that hopefully we're being able to give them an outlet to share that.
Yeah, and hopefully in the future too, we'll start doing some lessons there at the post office.
Right, that's going to be really exciting.
One of the things that I've read about and researched some on is how that music lessons help with math skills, and vice versa, actually.
Right, the academy, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
So you typically find a lot of musicians have some sort of math background. It's kind of a coincidence that you'll come across.
Well, it's proven by the, even the, educational resources, talk so much about how arts in themselves, lend themselves to so many things that children, cognitive reasoning. If you've ever seen in school where they ask a child to draw a family member or something, they're always impressed when that child, usually they have a head, a couple eyes, a nose, and a mouth. But some kids actually get down to putting in ears and eyelashes and nostrils and all kinds of things that people are like, you know, okay, this kid is really paying attention to something.
Yeah.
You know, and same thing with math. Those kids that seem to be able to gravitate towards math, the music, something about the balance helps them just, you know, to see it better. Like I said, apparently that's why I was never good in math, because I could never carry a note.
Did your grandfather, working with the organ company, was he involved in innovations that they were putting into their new designs or any design aspects?
You know, unfortunately, it's a sad thing. All the years that he worked there, I knew that he worked there. I never knew what he did. Again, that's where I find, you know, like things like this, the stories that we don't tell, that we don't know, are so important, because he was my grandfather my whole life. And I just really never knew the fact, other than the fact he went to work, he came home, he played in bands. And other than that, it wasn't really talked about what he did. Every once in a while, he would talk about, oh, I made a demonstration record today. And again, I just happened to have come across one of them in a few of the belongings that were left. And I have it here, and I have, it's really funny because it's on a square white vinyl piece of vinyl, very flexible. Wow. And so, you know, it's sad. Those are the sad parts, that you don't know what, I don't know what he really was thinking, you know, because he shared, and he was such a fun grandfather, you know, as a kid. He was just that true quality grandparent that, you know, we could put makeup on him, we could curl the few hairs that he had left, put rollers, everything else, and he'd play music all the time and sing and dance and make, you know, funny little ditties up. And but as I grew older, I didn't realize, I really didn't know him. I just knew him there. I didn't know who he was or what he did or how much he, I knew he enjoyed the music as I got older. And the last time I saw my grandfather play was, I think, in 1980. He passed away the following year. And we had gone up to a little place where he played on the north side. And I think that's one of the last photos I have of him holding my then 2-year-old. And, you know, it was, like I said, it was fun. And if I'm not mistaken, he's dressed up in some very weird garb. The things that I do remember, those are the Sunday afternoons where, you know, it was, you know, my parents, my grandparents, my brother, my sister, myself, a few neighbors. And when he brought the band with him, you know, there were, you know, sometimes 20 people.
Well, hopefully when we get back to doing some live music, we'll bring that banjo out of its case and play it on the stage.
Well, I would love that. And I think, and I'm trying to think, Tony, wasn't there somebody else that had a banjo and we talked about doing the dueling banjos? I don't know where, who else had the banjo? Was it you that we were talking about?
I don't know if we talked about that or not. I don't remember, but we could definitely do that. That would be fun on a plectrum tenor banjo to do that. That would be.
Yeah. Well, and again, the talent in our community is just overwhelmingly beautiful, and so fortunate that you know, that we have them and they're willing to participate. So.
Well, I'm going to let you go, and I appreciate you coming on here and talking about your banjo and your
thank you very much for featuring it.
And
I appreciate the fact that maybe the audience may not be interested in this, but Tony was able to do some repair work on this banjo for my husband and I, and we appreciate it tremendously. I'm going to end up eventually, the banjo will be given to my future son-in-law, who is a drummer extraordinaire, and you know, at least add to his wheelhouse of musical instruments, so, you know, to keep it in the family.
I don't know if it's a good thing to give a banjo to somebody you actually like. I'm not sure about that. It may ruin them for life.
Well, I could give him the saxophone. I have an old saxophone here too. That and like I said, there isn't a musical note between my husband and I, or either. Although our daughters do sing very lovely, but they certainly didn't inherit it from their mother. So I appreciate all your time, Tony. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming on, being on our program this month.
Have a great day.
You too. I'll let you go.
Okay, bye-bye.
Go play that banjo.
Oh, yeah. I can hardly pick it up.
It's heavy. Bye-bye.
We appreciate y'all for joining us this month for our February 2021 Postmark Jamboree. We hope you've enjoyed our exploration of musical connections among our performers. And again, we thank you for your support. Be sure to check out our other videos on our Postmark Jamboree YouTube channel. Also, check out and like our Facebook page for Postmark Jamboree and Postmark La Follette, and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And we thank you for your support.